Okay, for 8 and 9, we're going to be doing some debugging. So debugging is there's going to be an error somewhere, and we've got to figure out what that error is and fix it. Okay, so in this one, we've got a turtle that can move, but it's walking through trees. Well, we don't want that to happen. So the first thing you always need to do is just run the code and see what happens. So I've got this turtle, I move it, it's running through the bush. We don't want it to be able to go through the bush, although it's kind of fun to make it hide. That's not what we want. So the first thing I always do is I look at the code. I don't plan on adding anything new. I just look and see what happens. Well, these if blocks, those look good. That's going to make it move, and it's got borders for the game so that it won't go outside of where it's supposed to go. So that works fine, and nothing else is in here. I go look at the code up at the beginning. All right, we've got a turtle, we've got a tree, and we've got collide. Well, if you look at this, you may say, well, what's wrong with that? It's got tree, turtle, collide, tree. This should be working just fine. Well, the reason it doesn't work is because all of these types of collision blocks need to be in a specific place. They need to be inside the draw loop. Because what this is saying is when we run our code from the first time, we reset and rerun it. It creates a variable for the turtle, sets the animation. Creates a variable for the tree, sets the animation. And then it says turtle collide tree. Well, it does that once. That's why the turtle's not hiding behind the tree, but it doesn't do it more than once. So it sets it at the very beginning, it moves the turtle apart, but then it stays put. Well, what we need to do is just drag this block into our draw loop. Now, the location doesn't really matter, but as long as you do it, it'll work. Now, when I reset it and run, my turtle can't run into the tree. No matter which direction I move it, it'll be stuck. Now, this is really useful in games when you have an obstacle that you don't want your players to be able to run through, a wall or whatever it is, but you use this collide and it makes it so that they can't go together, and it works really well. Lesson 9 is another debugging lesson. Okay, it uses the same idea of there's going to be an error in the code somewhere, and we've got to fix it. Okay, so we're going to look and see what that would be, and then we'll fix it. Okay, so on this one, we have a different thing. Okay, we've got coins, right? We've got these two coins that are round, and you expect them to bounce a certain way, but they're going to bounce strangely. That wouldn't make sense. They should be bouncing in this way, right? So we look at what it is, and we're going to run the sprite debug this time and figure out why it happens, okay? So on this one, we've got the debug set to false. We're going to say true. We're going to go down to the other one, set it to true, and think about it, okay? Well, when we run it, you look, they're round coins, but what do they have? Square hit markers. Well, that means those collisions act like squares. Even though it looks like a circle, it's still going to act like a square. So when you go to part 10, we're going to find a new bit of code that lets us debug that thing. So we know we want them to bounce. That makes sense. We want them bouncing, but we don't want them just bouncing like a square would. We want them bouncing like a circle would. Okay, so part 10 gives us a new bit of code called set collider. Okay, so on this one, if we look at it, look, gold coin set collider rectangle. We don't want that. We want it to be a circle. If we go down to silver coin, we can run it for now, and we have the debug set to true. Well, now you see that the gold coin has a green circle around it. That means this collider, the hitbox, is now a circle. The gray coin is now a rectangle. Well, it bounces like we'd expect it to. They come from corners, they bounce off. It works. We could be done here. But just to show you how this works, we're going to also set the collider for the silver coin to be a circle. So I drag out up here. We don't need to do this one in the draw loop because it only needs to do it once. We don't need to do it over and over again. I type in silver coin. I set the collider to a circle. And now, when I run it, you can see they're both circles, and no matter when they would hit, it would actually make sense for what's happening. They bounce off like circles would instead of bouncing in a weird way like a rectangle would. And so it makes a big difference, right? So make all the difference in what you use it when something's not working right and when your collisions aren't happening like you'd expect, and it will help fix it.